Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9 to 5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.
Hey everyone, I am Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Her Podcast. I have an amazing guest with me tonight, and she is an award-winning entrepreneur. She does amazing things with the youth, and y'all know I love me some youth. So this is going to be an amazing interview, and she has mentored literally over 800,000 youth. And I find that very impactful because it is so needed, especially in today's world. The children are kind of different. But however, just either way of her just spending her time and giving up everything for her to be able to focus on the youth, it takes a person with a really big heart to be able to do something so amazing. So, you guys, we are welcoming Miss T to Life Podcast. Hi.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Miss T, I am really into youth too. I had a program called Fidel Young Women's Program. So when I saw that you were going to be on my podcast, I got excited.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So one of the first things I do want to ask you is how did you get started? Because this doesn't happen overnight.
No, my goodness. No, it does not. I would say that I was one of these youth. I grew up in a really challenged part of the Bay Area. I'm from Oakland and Richmond, and my mom was a single mom with 6 kids. My dad wasn't present or supportive, and so it was really hard for us growing up the way we grew up. So I promised myself when I was, I don't know, maybe 11 years old, that if God would help me, that I would help others. And He has been very, very consistently faithful in that respect. So it's a promise that I made to myself when I was a kid, that I think I can do better than this. And I think when I do better, I'm going to help others do better. And I've just been committed and focused on that goal for as long as I can remember.
Wow, that's amazing. So, what was the first thing you did for you to actually step out on faith and actually get kids to come to you? Because children got trust issues, and they had
Oh,
to feel
100%. Yeah.
comfortable for them
Yeah.
to actually just for you to just welcome them in.
Yeah, for sure. And not just them, their parents too. So
Okay.
it's like whenever we're dealing with kids, we always keep in mind that the kids that most often that's somebody's most valuable possession, and they're very protective. And so if you don't build relationships with the parents, it's really hard to get outcomes out of the kids. And so, when I started building what I built, I started as a volunteer. I got a full-time job just so I could, I had a young family at the time, but I've always volunteered. So that's always been my thing. I would go into, housing developments, the projects, churches, community centers, anywhere where these kids that, we were losing to the streets and, drugs and teen pregnancy and stuff, wherever they would gather, I would try to go where they are. So, and I think, a challenge, that most people face is there's an expectation that they should come to you. And that was never my expectation, because growing up, I didn't have a way to do that. We didn't have a way to get to a class. We didn't have transportation. We certainly didn't have gas money, and we couldn't keep asking people because the people around us had the same issues we did.
Yeah.
And changing the game in that, becoming a mobile program, I think really was the catalyst for success for what we do. Because most often when you build an arts program, most people think, you build a dance studio, and I wasn't groomed in something like that. So I didn't know that culture of things. So I would go to parks with a portable boom box, and, I tell people all the time, I started with $5 in my pocket and a portable boom box, a speaker, and that's all I had. And the kids would find their way to the park. And then I went into schools. The academic day for most of our kids ends at 3 o'clock. But after 3 o'clock, that 3 to 6 o'clock window, that's when, my siblings and friends and stuff, that's when they got into the real trouble. That's when we got hooked up with gangs and drugs and all that kind of stuff, is that block of time. And so I would go into after schools programs and just teach hip hop dance. That's all I knew, is how to do hip hop dance. So really, truly, I tell people I got started just by doing, what I know as it pertains to problem solving. So I knew if I could get them to gather this way, they'd be too tired to do some of the foolish stuff after 6 o'clock. You know what I mean? And so I just kind of kept going with that recipe, and then adding other things as the times changed. Media became very important as the times changed. Branding and packaging and social media became critical. And as the times changed, kids became less interested in a college track and more interested in an entrepreneurial track. And so I just make sure to listen when they talk and shift and stay agile with what the needs are for our different generations of kids.
So, how did you come about with Studio T Arts Entertainment? Like for you to like unpack so much that comes with it as far as real life skills, giving them hope,
Oh
and
yeah.
just having a groundbreaking program for you to be able to be so successful at it, because right now it's like a major. You got kids and so you think you can dance, you
Yeah,
gotta
we have a
dance
certain kicking dance
celebrity.
in there. Yeah, we sure do. Well, again, going into the communities, the kids tell their own stories. If you just listen, even in between the 5, 6, 7, 8, they'll talk to you, they'll tell you things. And again, it's on the water break sometimes. It's, when you're handing out snacks at the end of the class, they'll say things to you like, Miss T, we're going to be at my grandma's this week because my mom didn't do the light thing. And you're just like, oh, so, oh, so, tell Miss Candy to come and talk to me if we need help with the light bill. And so social services became a very big part of what we do. And most often those things happen out of the mouth of babes. So a lot of our innovative program really evolved because of the needs of the communities that we were positioning ourselves in. And I won't pretend like, I serviced these hundreds of thousands of kids singularly. I serve these kids with the kids that grew up to be leaders in the program,
Right.
marching alongside me. And so we were able to do a lot of things. And in doing that, you learn things. And again, there's some things that I know, instinctively, because I grew up like them. It's hard for you to give your all when your stomach is growling. It's
Yes.
hard for you to, keep showing up for another day when it's winter outside, but you don't have winter shoes. You got flip flops from the summertime. And so certain things that you just organically know because of lived experience. And so when I was, faced with the opportunity to add programs or scale programs, I'm also a risk taker. And people say, oh, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, I don't know if you want to do what I do, because you have to have extreme courage
Yeah.
and risk. And then you got to be willing to take a chance on what you see in your dreams. And most people they don't do that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
really, I'm a huge risk taker. And I tell my young people all the time, I'm stacking all my chips on you. And I got a mean poker face. So I'll play the game, but I'm playing to win because I believe so completely in your ability to accomplish something great, to be a good leader, to go out there and be be the you that you were created to be. And so I tell them, I will take these risks for you, but that's because I believe in the you that you're supposed to become. And most people won't take a risk. They're a little more conservative on what they do with their money and what they do with their time, where I'm heavily invested in my young people just because I believe in them so densely. And I've seen it happen over and over again. And it's a thing. Once a kid knows that you believe in them and you see their potential and you see them as good, they will show up in ways that surprise them and their families. And you mentioned it earlier, in the call, the young man that once, so you think you can dance. I started working with him when he was 4, almost 5. But I wasn't working with him. I was really working with his older brother. And his older brother was deaf, but he wanted to dance, but there was no one who could teach him that understood his language. His sign language was his first language, not English. And so I went to school, I took classes, and he helped me, and I learned his language. So I taught his brother first. Then I taught his sister, who had, some very, she had trauma, so she was really hard to deal with. But I worked with her, and all the while I'm working with her, I'm seeing this little guy in the back of the classroom, and he's doing all the moves. He don't talk. He's clinging to his mom's leg. And I said to his mom, I said, he can do everything these kids are doing, and I'm training them really hard. And
Wow.
I said, leave him with me for a week. She said, no, Miss T, he gonna cry. I said, he's gonna cry, but we can deal with that. I promise you. He just leave him with me for a week. And she did, and he was, yeah, he cried. He never complained. He worked really hard. And again, I won't pretend that, I'm the, source of his success. He's the source of his success.
Yeah.
But seeing the gift in him is what inspired me to do some things programmatically that I'd never done before. And again, single mom, 7 kids, she's trying her best. She's barely getting them there. So that family really helped us evolve a lot of our basic needs services. But how do you do it? You listen, and then you honor them by building the programs that really truly help them. It's one thing to say, read this book and you'll be better. It's another thing that says, okay, we're going to do this together and you'll be better. And I
Yeah.
find that the latter is what makes the difference.
It does. It does a lot. So even though you're doing so much, you're making such an impact of helping youth, could you share me the behind the scenes experience when you've been let down with collaborations, or people find themselves you being genuine but they in competition? It's just different things that come with it. How did you navigate through that? Because sometimes it can be heartbreaking. Sometimes you have to build strength up in certain areas when it comes to that.
100%. I would offer a lot of prayer and a lot of tears. Um, in building all of this, that there are kids that, you become very attached to. There are families that you become very attached to. So one of the hardest things is that process of separation, even especially when it's under bad circumstances, especially
Yeah.
circumstances where you're misunderstood, or you didn't create them, or they just want to go in a different direction with the success that you've helped them build, but they don't know how to do it. So I've had a lot of those moments. And how do you deal with it? I remind myself that this is what I signed up for. I'm in the business of people. And sometimes dealing with people is not pretty.
Yes.
So, just maintaining, you have to forgive, because sometimes they don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to survive the way you're trying to survive. And then secondly, it's like, I don't know what anybody else does, but I'm a woman of faith. I'm a practicing Christian. And there are certain, standards and character, Christ-like characteristics that you develop over time as you study and you experience these things. You always have the opportunity to love somebody when they're not easy to love. That's how you learn love. You always have the opportunity to forgive somebody when they do something really gnarly and really mean and really hurtful. And I've had that multiple times. But you don't learn how to forgive unless you have those experiences. So I remind myself that, number one, I know what I signed up for. Number
Yeah.
two, this is the name of the game. And either you let them change you, or you maintain who you are, no matter what is, no matter what's thrown at you. And hopefully you become the stronger, better person as a result of whatever the negativity is. Do I like it? No. Sometimes you just want to pinch somebody. It's like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? But
Yes.
again, you don't know what someone's been through. You don't know what's going on inside of them. And I've been doing this for 38 years. And
Oh,
one thing that I've learned is hurt people hurt people.
yes.
And so I remind myself that, okay, clearly they're hurting, and what can I do to love them? Not position myself in in a vulnerable way where I keep getting, kicked around or anything like that. But what can I do to help alleviate whatever it is that they're experiencing by way of pain that's causing them to be, this way toward me? Because I know most often sometimes it's not you, it's you're familiar, or they're going through something else and you're convenient.
Yeah. That is so true. Now with everything that you've been doing from start, when was it like your groundbreaking point when you started to receive some form of funding? Because a lot of times people don't know, a lot of it came out of your pocket at some point. It came out of your pocket. So when was that point when you was just like, okay, I finally have some help? and some funding for me to be able to sustain and keep moving forward.
Okay, you want the truth? Because most people don't believe me when I say this, but I can. You want the truth, or
I want the truth, true.
I know people look at the pandemic and they think, "Wow, that was probably one of the most horrible things that the country ever went through."
Mm-hmm.
But COVID did something phenomenal for my organization. Before that, it was paycheck to paycheck. Before that, it was T on her grind, on her hustle all the time, putting systems in place, building blocks, writing grants, like super grinding all the time. But then COVID hit, and something really special happened during COVID. A lot of the organizations that were getting the funding from city, state, county, and corporate, they they didn't have the ability to help the kids the way we did. The whole world went into survival mode, and everybody did not know how to survive in survival mode. And then what happened is funders started getting smart. They wanted to put money where the money would do the most work. And a lot of organizations didn't have evidence of their work. And one thing that we had was evidence of what we do works, especially as it pertains to people that are trauma informed and in survival mode. So what COVID did for us organizationally is it established us as experts, where before we were just people that work with the hard kids. Then we became the people that can work with any kid. So we became very popular very fast. And then I would say another thing is, when they started doing, grants and funding opportunities so that businesses could stay alive, we got our first six-figure grant. And
Wow.
because we had so learned over 20 years how to stretch a dollar, how to make miracles and programs happen with little, we were able to take $250,000 and completely explode ourselves organizationally across the country, which made us very attractive to other funders who saw our fiscal responsibility and our ability to maximize and multiply an opportunity and a dollar. And then the fact that we were teaching young people to do the same through entrepreneurship. And so I would say that the massive catalyst for growth really happened during a time when the world really needed help, and we were able to show up and prove that we can help them. And we did. We helped small businesses. I mean, we must have supported 13 small businesses, helping them get funding opportunities. We secured over $758,000 for 13 local small businesses so that they wouldn't go under during COVID. And
Wow.
we helped 192,000 youth and educators and administrative leaders nationally through a platform that I built that sat dormant, that I was just trying to help kids with. It became a national brand. And then, you get on calls and stuff, all the Zoom calls. And I started to, people would state the problem. And when you're talking city leaders, county leaders, state leaders, they would state the problem. And then they would do things like, it's hundreds of people on these calls, these Zoom calls. And then they would do things like, so Miss T, what do you think? And I'm just like, well, and then I tell them what I think. 3 weeks later, it would turn into a program. And so a friend of mine called me and she said, T, don't talk again on these calls. They're calling you to get answers that they should be paying you for. I didn't know, I'm just trying to help people. And so another catalyst was I established a consultant company. And during COVID, over that 3-year stretch, I was consulting cities, states, counties, school districts on how to problem solve with the youth. And I became a consultant, or they established me as an expert, because of the cultural equity and the company, equity. And so I was able to start adding zeros to some of the payments that we were getting just to problem solve for people. And so I would suggest that, COVID, number one, it taught us our value as an organization. Number two, it taught me my value as a person, and it taught me to value my history and my experiences and how I grew up. I frowned at it, but really it's the tactile that I learned growing up very hard that prepared me for a time when the whole world went through something really hard.
Yes, yes. What sets the tone of it, a lot of people don't realize, is the work that you do is genuine. It's what you want to do, and it comes from love. Yes, and sometimes people don't understand that when you have an actual passion in something, and they don't understand how God is really guiding you.
Sure,
With
absolutely.
everything. I can see it all over you. Just your energy and everything. It's really, really beautiful. And
Oh,
just I appreciate you for even just being one of those people from somewhere where we were brought up at to
yeah,
be able to have the heart that you do, because it's so hard to actually for kids to get comfortable with someone and
yep,
feel good and know they can always come to you for the rest of their life.
yes, that is true. That's true. That is a,
Yes,
and
yes,
it's not a class, it's not a moment, it's not a workshop, it's a relationship. So I have
yes,
kids that, I work with, then they go into the world, but they come home and they end up working for me, and then they build a career. And the key is the door's always open, and it's open anytime, any day. And one thing I'll point out, you made a very good point that, sometimes, you can narrow things in a way that you think what you're doing should be about the money. And my hope is to help people understand that, what you said, you follow your heart, you follow your passion. Like, we're all wired in a way that we know what our thing is.
hmm
And I think that sometimes people don't give themselves permission to fully lean into it and trust that this is their it, and then just kind of run with it. I think another thing that came out of COVID for me is it gave me clarity that I understand my assignment. I really know why I'm here.
yes,
And a lot of people don't discover why they're on the planet. I know why I'm on this planet. And so once you can settle into the truth of who you are and
mm,
why you're here, I
yes,
think it takes all the limits off. I think it takes the lid off. I think that you begin to walk a path that there's nothing you can't do. The only thing that ever stops you is you. And so
yep,
I'm sure that that's not the case, because I recognize that should tea stop, it could create a challenge or two for a lot of people. And
yes,
so I don't need an alarm clock to wake me up. My kids making it and me showing up, and they're making it because I'm showing up. That wakes me up. That makes me stay up late. That makes me work harder. That makes me do things that, intimidate me sometimes. It's not easy to do what I do. I just, and I don't say that to sound any kind of braggadocious, but I just bought a whole city block with a collection of buildings that total 44,000 square feet. And I flipped it into a creation space. It is a movie theater, a hair and image shop, podcast studios, plural, recording studios, music studios, DJ academy, culinary arts academy, a full commercial kitchen, broadcast kitchen, dance studios. I mean, I can go down the list of everything that houses this collection of buildings housing, and that's just the inside. It doesn't include everything we're doing on the exterior of it, and that's just in one city, and we're in multiple cities. So when I think about the depth and the breadth of what my day-to-day responsibility is, number one, it makes me grateful that I get to do this. But number two, it keeps me mindful that this is not somebody's every day. But when you can find what your it is and then build it into your everyday lifestyle, the level of fulfillment that you get. And again, I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for we. I
yes,
know by the time my time expires on this planet, that I will have built something that'll continue to ripple through time. And
hmm
I don't think anybody wants to be here and then forgotten when they're not here. I think everybody should want to come and make their mark. Like, I was here, the planet is better, people are better because I was here.
yes,
And then even when you transition to your next stage of existence, at least people knew you were here, and
right,
you
yes,
on somebody's life. And so I just think that, and I do a lot of lecture, and I ask people that question. I'm like, if you're, what are your dreams? And then they'll say, oh, well, I dreamed this, I dreamed that. I'm like, why aren't you going for it? Oh, well, I got to get a real job, or I got to do this. I'm like, sweetie,
yeah,
if those are your dreams and you get this, allotted amount of time, like, what are you here for? Like, then what are you here
exactly.
for? Like, go for it. Like, go for it. And if you fall on your face, failure has been the best teacher for me.
Oh my God, yes, yes. It
Fail
felt
trying, but don't fail and you didn't do nothing.
Yes, that's the truth. But Failing makes you better.
100% makes you stronger.
Yes, it does. And it's like a refreshing feeling at times, because it's like, even like through the storm, you know something good is coming.
Yeah. If you make it through the storm.
Yes,
If you make it through the storm. Some people are afraid and they never go into a storm.
that's
They
true.
buckle down somewhere and they never experience the thing that causes you to be creative and grow.
Yes. Yes. So where do you see the direction? How, like, do you want to do bigger,
Oh, of
or
course.
certain things that you want to do, um,
Yes.
with everything that you have going on at Studio T?
Yeah, 100%. So, we're definitely, preparing to be global. Uh,
Okay.
so I didn't want to just stay in the States. I'm aware that, there's a baby born every millisecond somewhere in the world. There's a young person graduating something. There's a kid transitioning from one grade to the next grade. There's a person asking the question, how do I live the life of my dreams? And
Hmm.
so that means, I constantly have the opportunity to expand in a way that where I can have interface with someone that's asking those questions, or a baby that's born again, that, we get to engage and work with. And so for me, I never wanted to be a local entity, but I
Wow.
wanted to take what was local for me and make it international, because I think there's great need there.
Yes, it
When we
is.
first started Studio T, there were pockets of trauma informed youth. Now our youth are just trauma informed. And so I'm aware that my work is not, it's not local, and it's not just in a small space, and it's no longer just a small percent, it's the global percentage. So the goal is to scale the program and continue to test the efficacy of it in different states. So we dominate California right now. We're scaling to Tulsa, Philadelphia, Harlem, New York, and Atlanta, Georgia, and Ghana is our first international stop in Africa. And so
Wow.
we've been working on those for the past 3 to 4 years, depending on the state. And we're very excited about, the trajectory of that. And then beyond that, we've trained and developed so many kids in the entertainment realm, which is why we changed our name from Studio T Urban Dance Academy to Studio T Arts and Entertainment, because we were producing some of the, industry's most sought after
Yes.
talent, entertainment. And so they're embedded content creators for media houses like Disney. They're content creators for, the White House. And so our young people do more than just dance here now. Now they're creative directors for, Beyonce's Renaissance tour. They are walking the same halls as the highest civic leaders in the land. And so for us to continue to think and function like we are a cute little dance studio, it would be doing my babies an injustice, and I wouldn't be living, what we teach them. And so making sure that we don't just have the spaces for them to continue to create and grow and build the careers that they deserve, but also, offering programs. We're delving into things like coding, like robotics, taking advantage of things like AI. And these are in technology. We work with some tech starved communities. They never hold a professional camera. They never hold a computer that's fast, that doesn't have laggy issues. And so making sure that we continue to offer spaces that have cutting edge technology that give them, a mild advantage over competition, and teaching them how to use their creativity to combined with, the technology and entrepreneurship. And so making sure that we have a physical presence, that's definitely something we're scaling to do. And then lastly, we work with a lot of kids that end up in the juvenile hall. And
Okay.
so sometimes when they come out of the hall, they can't find the training and the support that they need to stay out of the hall. And so they end up back in the hall. And so, live, learn. I don't call I don't call it jail. I never say they're in jail. I always say that they're in boarding school. And when
Okay.
they graduate from boarding school, then they come with Miss T. And so I
Yeah.
need a campus where we can start to reduce some of the feeder programs, feeder issues for the homelessness. A lot of our kids in the foster care system, about 40%, when you're looking at statistics, are people that are unhoused right now, is because they aged out of foster care and didn't have some place to go. And so
Wow.
I want to make sure that, we have a campus where we can have that live learn model where they don't have to worry about where am I going to sleep and what am I going to eat. They can just concentrate on their efforts on growing and developing and becoming. And so, my next leap, if you will, is a live learn campus where we can continue to teach creative career development, entertainment with, full production studios, and they have a place to go lay their heads that's safe, that's excellent,
Yeah.
quality meals that they learn to prepare. And so, just so they learn some life skills. But that's our next leap, is a full campus so that we can serve about 100 young adults at a time, and keep the cycle going with graduate, and they can take care of their academics also. So that's one of the next goals.
Wow. That is amazing, T. That is so amazing. And you're just so humble. That's the amazing part about it also. So tell me about Sweet Tea Time.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Thank you for asking. So my young people said, Miss T, you got to do a podcast, because I'm constantly coaching them. And they said, other people, there's another way to reach, the general populace. And so they really talked me into doing Sweet Tea Time. So Sweet Tea Time is my podcast. It's also the brand or the auspice that we put a lot of my speaking commitments, my written content, workbooks, things like that under. And so the goal really truly is to continue to help people with, steps that I've taken, but also steps that, other people have taken in podcast form, written form, workshop form. And it seems to be working.
That is amazing.
Really excited about it. It's a lot of work, and I will offer that I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of gal, and I like to do the background work and watch others fly. But this kind of puts me in front of the camera, so I'm having to strengthen, personally by this level of visibility. But it's been really, really exciting getting some of the feedback of how, some of the things that we're sharing in bits and bytes is really helping people. So it's been really, really, mildly intimidating, but definitely fun, and then it's fun to watch my young people. They're the ones that, capture and produce my podcast, and they're very excited, by it. So it's nice to watch them get so excited about what we're doing together.
That is amazing.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Life Her Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this wonderful episode with Tamaira, Miss T, Sandifer. For more information and updates with Miss T at her Studio T Arts, you could contact her anytime at studiotarts.org. And you can also follow her on Instagram, Studio T Dance. Please don't forget to navigate on the website of Studio T Arts and Entertainment. You will be able to donate to her organization, and you'll be able to register for classes and workshops, and also get passes for fun community events. The programs is in your city of Sacramento, San Diego, and Fresno. Always look for all the new things that Miss T have going on her website, and keep yourself updated with everything that she has. And please, guys, make sure you support these amazing children that are making things happen, and you will eventually see them on the big screen, and you'll be able to say you able to contribute to their dreams. Thank you.